What is that?
Video footage from some guy in the traffic jam.
I can see that, but why you didn't tell me about this? Badass cop. Are you kidding me?
It shows nothing of the heist, a little bit of the motorcycles.
Carter, please stop stalling.
Man, look at me go. I'm at least 5 feet off the ground.
5 feet, that's like 8 inches. Lee, the truth is, based on the utilities drop we found, we have a good lead on a Ukrainian gang that profiles perfectly into this crime, and nothing substantial on any sort of Quantow activity. This very much looks like a robbery gone wrong that you successfully stopped. Nothing more.
Ooh, watch this. Frame by frame. Look at this, look at this, look at this.
What a nice way to kick off the week.
I know, I like it. Can I just take you guys with me?
That would be theft. And then your
And
detective
kidnapping.
and Dee Dee, the woman you play on the show, would have to arrest them.
Yeah.
Or you arrest yourself.
Yes.
So let's talk about Rush Hour. How did you come to do this?
Well, I had worked on CBS before with Dennis Quaid, actually, on a show called Vegas. And I had worked with Warner Brothers before on the George Lopez show. So both CBS and Warner Brothers were familiar with me. And once I saw the team of Brett Ratner, who was part of the original Rush Hour franchises, and Bill Lawrence, who created Scrubs, Cougar City, Spin City, I loved it. And so I said yes. And I think it's rare to find a show where, as an actor, you can do martial arts, a little comedy, and a little drama. And so I loved it, and I said yes, and it's been a blast.
And speaking of martial arts, your character does do some pretty badass physical stuff in the show. So how do you get ready for that?
I train with my co-star, John Fu, who has been doing martial arts since he was 5 years old. He specializes in Muay Thai and Wushu. And a little history lesson, Wushu is more of a balletic form of Kung Fu. So back in the day, everybody knew Kung Fu, and then eventually the emperor was like, that's not cool. I don't want everyone knowing Kung Fu. So the soldiers secretly continued learning Kung Fu, but made it a little bit more graceful and balletic, and that became Wushu. And then Muay Thai is boxing and more aggressive. So I train for about 4 hours every Monday with him, and we have a great stunt coordinator, and it's really fun. I was a little bit of a squeaky wheel. I'm like, I know it's Rush Hour, I know Chris Tucker, Jackie Chan, but what about Hunger Games and Star Wars? I'm like, what about the girls kicking some butt? So they were great, and I went from answering phones on the show to squeezing Chinese mafia ballsack.
And you were a dancer starting out, so before you switched to acting. So I'm sure that helps you with the... That's my version of martial arts.
That was excellent. That was excellent.
I'm like a pink belt.
Yeah, I started out as I'm from Chicago. I started out as a ballet dancer as a kid, and one thing led to another. I wasn't the cutest kid at all. My mom had a friend who was an agent who was like, you should really get her into acting. And my mom was like, but she's not that cute. She's like, what a personality. Very funny, but not so much pretty. And then they needed a dancer for a commercial, and my mom was like, that she can do. And yeah, I just started doing commercials with Michael Jordan and Sammy Sosa in Chicago. But dancing has been like the best way, I think, to kind of stay in shape and segue into martial arts.
And just have the confidence in your own body, I assume, especially on a show like this.
Yeah, there's not a lot of girls on the show, and I feel like I do all my own stunts, and I didn't think I was gonna get the slow motion, but on last week's episode, I do a slow motion fan kick in like 4-inch heels, and it's just fun, you know. I think it's good, I think, for girls to see girls who are athletic, but also professional and smart, and I love it. It's so fun. It's a total boys club. My shirts are way too low cut. I don't know any detective that has that much cleavage, but it's TV, and that's how we do. And
that's how you roll.
Yeah, that's how I roll. But the important thing is that she has a really good shot and a really good kick, and I don't mind the cleavage and the heels as long as she can hold her own with the boys. In a physical way, which she can. So
well, when the show started out, your character Dee Dee was on desk duty.
Yeah.
She was literally shuffling papers.
Yeah.
So you said you were the one who petitioned to have her be more physical and more active. How did that come about?
Well, I mean, I do have to give the writers a lot of credit. You know, it's a very, Bill Lawrence is great. You know, he wrote for Courtney Cox, who, you know, and he writes really well for women. And I just, you know, this whole year for me has been about no fear. So, like, I just sang the national anthem at the Dodgers game on Friday, and I'm not a professional singer. And I thought, how can I tell my friends no fear and to confront their fears if I myself don't face my fears? And so when they asked me to sing live in front of 56,000 people at the Dodgers game, my first response was, heck no. And then I did it. And so in that same kind of mindset, I feel like with the show, I thought, you know what? You don't live forever, no regrets. Why not ask? Why not say, I know the show is about these two, but she's a cop and she holds a gun, and why can't she do some kicks too? And they were so open to it, you know. So obviously it was well received. It didn't fall on deaf ears. So I have to credit Steve Franks, our showrunner, and Brett Ratner, and Bill Lawrence, and Arthur Sarkisian, and they were just great, you know. And Blake McCormick, who was a main writer, and they were like, of course. And all the female writers on the show loved it, and luckily CBS liked those episodes so much that they actually moved them up. So later in the season, she started kicking butt, but that Korean spa scene where she just goes nuts, that was done in one take, because I don't know if you know, like, if you get your hair wet, there's no reshoots. So they kind of treat me like a dude. They're like, Aimee, we have 15 minutes to shoot this. Just trust this stunt man. You're gonna fall over backwards. Your hair's gonna get wet. We only have time for one take. No pressure. Action, let's go. You know, so you have this beautiful Asian stunt guy who's shirtless. And I also requested more naked men on the show, which they did. And John, who is actually from London, he's half Irish, half Chinese, and he's like, are you a producer on the show? Because whenever you ask for things, it actually happens. And I'm like, no, I'm just Puerto Rican and have a big mouth and ask. And so it's a good lesson. Like, you never know. Ask if you could do some kung fu on a show, and they might say
like,
yes.
okay.
They'll be like, sure.
So how exactly did you phrase the request for more naked men? Was it like in a memo, an email? Was it face-to-face?
It was pretty much like, I'm surrounded by beautiful men with amazing bodies. For the girls who watch the show, can we please
objectify
showcase
them?
that? Yeah, it was pretty blunt. I was like, this man has an incredible body. Let's show the girls of America, you know? So it was pretty crass, pretty direct, and I just, you know, I love men, I love women, and I especially love half-naked men with beautiful bodies.
You know what? You're looking out for the American female population, and for that, we all thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, America.
So how did you prep to play a cop? I assume drive-alongs?
Yes, I did do
Drive-alongs, not drive-alongs.
Yeah, drive-alongs with LAPD, and just, you know, you ask them a bunch of questions, and I went around the Hollywood and Highland area, which is a very touristy area with all the, you know, stars, the Hollywood and the Chinese theater. Yeah. And it's fun. I mean, I just learned so much, and it's funny because I drove around with a sergeant who's more of a boss, and he would kind of look over the rookies, and you just feel for it. Like I'm Latin, I'm Puerto Rican and Mexican, and like a lot of the cops are like these really young, adorable Latin kids, and they'd be like, hey, Sergeant, so I don't know what to do here. You know, this car is not moving, and they were so nervous because they're like rookie cops, and the sergeant was like, it's fine, just, you know, give them a ticket and move on. And she's like, yeah, she's got a lot of attitude. The girl's not taking the ticket. Her boyfriend's in the car, and he's like, I'll be right there. So it just showed me like how seniority really kind of decreases your stress level. But I learned a lot, and it's just fun. It's just fun to be part of the boys club, but you know.
Yeah, I was gonna actually ask you about that. Like, you seem, just from talking to you, like you would not be bothered by that at all. Like, some people might be intimidated, and you're just like, yeah, it is what it is.
No, I think everything, you know, like RoboCop was very dude. I was like working with Michael Keaton and Gary Oldman. I remember at one point I was like, oh my God, I'm in between Batman and the Commissioner. Like the 14-year-old boy in me was like geeking out. And Dexter, you know, I feel like is very kind of like Jennifer Carpenter, I feel like is like the coolest girl ever. You know what I mean? So I've been very lucky to work with like really cool women and guys, and I feel like the shows I do, George Lopez, they're very kind of dude oriented. So I think I just kind of do well in that space. And I actually went to high school with mostly boys. So my freshman year, all the seniors were boys, all the juniors were boys, all the sophomore were boys, and half the freshmen were boys.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in Chicago, and it was the first year of girls. So it was 800 boys and 100 girls. The guys hated us. They were like, now we can't fart, now we have to shower. Like, they were just so annoyed. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, guys, I didn't want to come to this school. You know, but I think in my most developmental years, in my formative years, I was surrounded with mostly guys. So to this day, my girlfriends are like, okay, I don't know what to do about this guy. We need a guy's perspective. Aimee. So if he didn't text, you know, so I feel like I'm just a dude.
Like
trapped
Snapchat him.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, Snapchat him, show him your tits. No. Yeah.
God, you're the coolest. I just have to point out to everyone that this young lady right here graduated from Northwestern with a triple major in econ, journalism, and French. I should hold this up, obviously. Were you always an overachiever?
Yeah. I mean, my mom is incredible. Like, I do have to. My mom is. She's Mexican. She's from Mexico. My dad's Puerto Rican, so I'm Mexican. And they both came from very humble beginnings. Like, my dad did not have hot water growing up. My dad didn't have indoor plumbing. He literally had to go outside into a shack to, like, go to the bathroom. And because of that, you know, I think they came to this country super, like hardworking and appreciative. And so I saw my parents come from nothing and build a really good life for themselves. And so I think because of that, I feel like I really have to represent not only being a girl, but also being like a Latin girl. Like, I want to like do well by my community. And so my mom actually, having grown up really poor in Mexico, ended up being the first Latina to graduate Northwestern's dental school and is an orthodontist and is actually more educated than I am.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
Yeah, so I feel like I was given really good opportunities and I just worked really hard. But I had like my parents as role models, so I feel very fortunate for that. So I feel like any kid born to my parents would have like done well. You know, I feel like I can't really take full credit. I kind of credit my parents.
I don't know, give yourself some credit. That's a pretty brutal triple major there.
Thank you.
And I know that you're super active with Latina youth, so do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So Spanish is my first language, but I also obviously speak English. And
You?
Hablo español. Es mi primer idioma. No sé quién habla español ahí, pero yeah, so I love Spanish. You know, that's kind of my mother tongue. Like, if my mom were to call me, right? Oh, my phone's right here. If my mom were to call me, I'd talk to her in Spanish. So I just feel really fortunate to be not only American. You know, it's funny. I was really nervous about singing the national anthem, and they're like, and I thought, you know what? It's not about me. It's about a tribute to being born in this great country, right? So I take that really seriously, and I work with a bunch of charities, you know, everything from the Hispanic Heritage Foundation to this other charity called MOST. And I just feel like, especially for Latinas, for example, my role model in the entertainment world wasn't my mom because she doesn't know anything about entertainment. It was Rita Moreno, who is Puerto Rican and one of the few people in the world to win an Oscar, Grammy, a Tony, and an Emmy. And so I thought, you know what? I'll never forget when I was on the George Lopez show, 12-year-old girls running up to me and saying, oh my God, Veronica, she's so funny, she's so fashionable. And I thought, wow, I'm not just making decisions to pay rent, I'm actually making decisions to represent girls. And so from that moment, I'll never forget. I wish I still knew those 5 girls because they totally changed the game for me. I thought, whether I like it or not, I'm a role model for girls. And I thought, how cool to play a millionaire on TV. You know, you have like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I thought, on the George Lopez show, Veronica was a millionaire, and you never see that. So I
Never ever see
you
that,
never
yeah.
see that. So I thought, okay, even on Dexter, when she was doing like her love scenes or whatever, I was like, I want her to be cool, and if she's on the phone with Dexter, I want her to be studying because she's a psychology major. So I felt at that moment that people are very affected by what they see. So I just started picking roles that were representative of girls as smart and all that stuff, and I just give back as much as I can, you know, whether it's with time. I'll go to college trips with them. I'll answer like any questions they have about. I'll just spend the day with them. Like I'll go to the Sparks game with the most girls, and they have a blast, and I get inspired by them because it's so rough, you know, being an actor. There's a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and I always say it's like being a baseball player. If you have a .3 batting average, you're still in the Hall of Fame, which means that 7 out of 10 times you don't make contact with the ball, but yet you're a highly specialized success story in your field. So even if as an actor you don't get 70% of your jobs, you're still a success. And so I make sure to talk to them about it. And we went to the Sparks game a few years ago, and I was inspired by this girl who's 5'1". Everyone told her she could never be a professional basketball player, and she's like, I'm gonna do it. And she did it, and I'm like crying. I'm like, you're so inspiring. And it was just because I was there with the most girls. So I really do a lot of work with them, and you know, a lot of times they're more educated than their parents by the time they're in 5th grade. So I tell them to like keep. I said, do you like being told what to do? And they're like, no, I hate it. And I'm like, if you don't like being told what to do, then you have to get an education. Because to me, very simply, in 3 words, education equals choices. That's it. And if you don't like being told what to do, open up your opportunities
And be the boss.
And be the boss. And start. And now there's no excuse. Like you can literally start a blog, start a company. And so I really would love to see more Latina astronauts, CEOs. And so I try to give back, lead by example, and donate how I can, whether it's with time, whether it's with money. I have a Dream Foundation, you know, I'm a big supporter of them as well. So, and Step Up organization, which is a women's organization. And especially as girls, this is what I notice working in a lot of male kind of dominated shows, is guys help each other out all the time. All the time, like no problem. Like, hey, I help you, will you help me? And I just feel like girls, especially like young girls, we cannot tear each other down. We just can't do it. Like we have to stick together. We have to support each other. And if we do that, I am totally convinced that we could like run the world. You know, so I encourage young Latinas, like even as actresses, like Gina Rodriguez from Jane the Virgin and Genesis Rodriguez and Natalie Martinez, we don't compete with each other. We're all friends. And so I really hope that if that's, like I could die a happy person if I can start scholarships for like young girls who have the grades but don't have the money. I could like die peacefully, no problem. But I really hope that, you know, girls stick together and build each other up, because I see the guys do it and I'm like, yeah, I like that. So it's a really exciting time, and I just try to give back as much as I can, but I wish I could do more.
Dude, that's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
And I have to ask you, what prompted the Year of No Fear?
That's a good question. Okay, so I'm really type A. As you said, I have 3 degrees from Northwestern, which is totally obnoxious. And I work really hard, and I've always wanted to be perfect, right? And I've realized like perfect isn't always right. And it can also be limiting. And I admire people I'm newly friends with like King Batch. I don't know if you guys know King Batch. He's like the #1 Vine star in the world. He just got honored by Obama for like, and he is this kid. He's like 27 years old, and he creates his own content and just tells his own stories. And I'm like so inspired by people who leave the world different than they found it, even if it's in the smallest of ways. And I thought, you know what? I don't know when my last breath is gonna be. Sorry, this is so kind of depressing, but it's like no one lives forever. And I didn't wanna be like on my deathbed with any regrets and being scared of trying. And I thought, you know what? You look at a baby, and I think this is what it was. I saw this baby trying to walk, and like, it was terrible at walking. It was so bad. And like, it fell, and then it got back up. And then it fell, and then it got back up. And then it fell, and then it got back up. And then it fell again and got back up. And I thought, when does that end for us? Like, when do we stop trying because we're so scared of falling? And in that moment, coupled with like my new friends and this baby, and I just thought, okay, 2016 is gonna be about no fear. I could fall flat on my face, but it's gonna be okay, because I could just get back up. And no one succeeds without falling and failing. And because of that, I said yes, terrified, by the way, said yes of singing the national anthem. I had 25 days to prepare for this, and I was mortified, and I thought, no fear. And that has led me to so many cool things, and now I just feel like I don't want to have any fear.
I like literally think you're like the coolest like person ever.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, and even if you have fear, just face it. And like, it's okay.
Yeah, because you learn by failure. If you never fail, you
learn.
never learn anything.
Yeah. So I'm actually very inspired by millennials. I have to say, I know millennials get a lot of bad rap. I don't know why. Like, oh, they have everything so easy. They're always Snapchatting, which, by the way, I just got on Snapchat like 2 days ago. I'm like obsessed. But it's like, yeah, but they're fearless. Like, I think it's so cool to just like not care and try, because that's tough.
And I think I know the answer to this, but tell me before we turn it over to the audience, who's your celebrity crush?
Oh,
Has it changed?
Who are you? I mean, I'm...
Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Oh, I do love Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I do love Joseph. I'm probably blushing right now. So, okay, so Sandra Bullock I love, because she's my old boss. A lot of people don't know this, but she was our executive producer
on the George
Lopez show. So, she, like, coolest boss ever. Would like sit on the floor during our live tapings. I'm like, at the end, do you want to come out and say hi? She's like, no, this isn't about me. This is about you. And I'm like, Sandra Bullock, you're the best. So I like love her. I someday would love to just like work with her in some capacity. So I love her again. And then as far as guys, okay, I do whatever. Ryan Gosling is awesome. He did ask me out a minute, and I like said no because I was dating someone at the time. And my girlfriends were like, "What's wrong with you?" So I would say probably Ryan Gosling is really awesome. But I also, this is kind of sad, I like love Heath Ledger. I think he was like the sexiest thing. When he's saying like, "You're just too good to be true, can't take my," I was just like melt.
He was one of the most kindest, well-mannered
Was
people.
he?
Yeah.
Did you meet him?
Yeah.
I'm gonna-
He like, we had, for work, we had lunch years ago, and he, like when the bill came, I was like, well, I'll take care of it, you know, because I'll expense it. And he was like, I was brought up by a mother and 2 sisters, and in my company, no lady ever pays. And I was like, oh my God.
I think like every girl in this room just like swooned. Oh my God.
He just wasn't comfortable in interviews, so that kind of never came across.
But that's so, I feel like charming and endearing, you know?
It was authentic. Like, he didn't do it to get like a nice quote. He did.
But see how lucky, like you got to meet someone who I think is such an incredible soul, who like, he's no longer with us, but because you just told that story, like, I don't know, life's too short, man. I think it's so cool. Like, I feel like I kind of got to know him a little bit because of that story. So I'd like to think that if I went to lunch with Heath Ledger, he would pay for my lunch.
He would have. He totally would have. He wouldn't even let you get your wallet.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And now for our audience, please.
Hey, Amy. Thank you for being here. So, what have you learned from George Lopez working with him that resonated with you in your career? And would you like to work with him in the future?
Yes. Speaking of George Lopez, and she's wearing a Dodger shirt, George Lopez helicoptered in to watch me sing the national anthem and then went to his show at the Orpheum where he was performing live 45 minutes later. So that guy, when he says he's going to support you, he actually shows up and supports you. George Lopez, when I was doing his show, was doing book signings at Walmart, was doing live performances in Vegas, was throwing out the first pitch at the Cubs game, was doing and headlining, producing, starring in, writing his own show. And even though he was juggling so many balls, he worked so hard. He would sign autographs till 4 a.m, pay for security out of his own pocket. I'll never forget it. Like, security was only paid for till 2 a.m, but there was a line out the door of fans that wanted his autograph. And he was like, these people are here. I will sign every single person's autograph and pay for security out of pocket. And he had notes in his notepads, and he worked so hard. And I thought, here's a guy who has his own star on the Hollywood, Walk of Fame, and he's working and hustling like he's a rookie who just moved here from like Topeka, Kansas. So I learned that from him. He's my mentor to this day. I just saw him at his charity golf tournament on Monday, and he's so cool. Like, he brags on you. Like, I was standing there, and Don Cheadle came up, and Don's like, so I heard you sing the national anthem. George told me you rocked it. And I'm like, oh.
Oh my
I'm
God,
like,
that's
remain
amazing.
calm. Remain calm.
See, this is what you're talking about, how men help each other, and why don't we do that for other women?
Yeah, but I feel like he's so
Yes.
supportive, and and I will say too, I mean, I have to give props, not only because I feel like she's on top of the world right now, but Lady Gaga is dating, a friend of mine. I'm just gonna call her Steph, because it's so weird to call her. And she's like the real deal. Like, she's like, I'll never forget what she told me, and she was generous enough to let me fly on her plane, which I'm terrified of flying, and the whole time I'm thinking, it's gonna go down. This plane's gonna go down, it's gonna say Lady Gaga on plane, and then also on board in small letters. And I remember Steph saying, I was like so nervous, and I remember Steph saying, you have something that I don't have. And I'm thinking, here's like the modern day Madonna saying, and this just tell you how cool she is. And she's like, you're the emergence of an artist. You can be anything you wanna be. And so talk about girl power. Here's a girl who used to sing, as you know, like, New York, used to just perform
Hustle
for like
through
2
clubs,
people.
yeah.
She's the real deal. She writes all of her own stuff. She's the hardest worker I know, on top of the world, multi-Grammy platinum winner. And here she is paying it forward to a girl that, is definitely not a household name. And she like lifted me up and inspired me. And I thought, damn, I love this. And that's the kind of girl that you want in your circle, but from George, yeah, he pays it forward. He brings you up, and he works so hard.
Hi, it's an honor to have you here, and I thank you for what you're saying and doing. I believe it's very important to give back, and all of that you said and giving back, I believe you are truly helping out with the next generation, so thank you for that. And I wanted to know, with all of your work ethics and everything that you're doing, what sets you apart from all of the other actors?
I don't know. I mean, I have to give props to like my fellow actors. I think to make it as an actor, you have to have really like self-belief and thick skin and not give up. I think that acting, the number one word I would say for acting isn't really talent, it's persistence. I think you have to stay in the game. And not to use another sports reference, but you can have a perfect game and still lose. And so to me, you have to keep going up to bat. You can hit 3 home runs, but the other team hit 4. And so to me, that is, I think, and I guess what makes me different, I feel like I've had a very like blue collar career, in that I started my career with 1 line, and then 2 lines, and then 1 scene, and then 2 scenes, and then a reoccurring, and then a regular, and then features. So it's been a very like blue chip kind of, I wasn't like a DJ that I'm so beautiful, I was like discovered, and next thing I know, I'm like starring in movies. Like, I've had and I've been super lucky, I feel like, to be on a show like Dexter. I remember taking the train and I was going to Brooklyn, and they're like, can we talk about the finale? And I'm like, yeah, let's talk about it. And I was in Iceland, and people were caring about Dexter there, and I thought, wow, how cool to be on a show that is just as equally popular at Comic-Con as it is with Emmy voters, as it is in Chicago. It's so hard to find that sweet spot, and to work with someone like Michael C. Hall, who is this incredible triple threat. He can sing, he can dance. So I guess maybe what makes me different is I'm a total sponge, right? So like when I was shooting RoboCop, I was able to learn from Michael Keaton, who is this charming personality, and Gary Oldman, who has done everything from Beethoven to Sid Vicious to Fifth Element to the Professional, and to learn from them. So I guess I'm like a sponge, and I love to keep learning, and I really think of acting as tennis. You can't out-act somebody. It's a dance, it's a tango, it's a give and take. So I guess, I don't know, maybe unlike other actors, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm very open to new things. I don't know. Sure.
And last question, please.
Hey, Amy.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Since Rush Hour is a buddy comedy, what are some of your buddy comedies, either TVs or movies?
That's a good question. I do love Rush Hour, like the franchises. I think it's really funny. I'm biased. I like The Heat because
Of course.
Sandra Bullock
I mean,
is like the best, and Melissa McCarthy's from Chicago, and I just find her so charming. Like even if she's playing the most unlikable character, like in The Boss, you just love her, and you want to play poker with her, and you want to go shopping with her, and you want her to be like your buddy. So, but I do love the Rush Hour movies. I think that Jackie Chan has such a twinkle in his eye, and what I love about their kind of rapport was you don't often see martial arts with a comedic twist. And I feel like Jackie Chan changed the game and made martial arts about having fun. Because I feel like so often martial arts was about being fierce and badass and super serious, more like the Bruce Lee track. But Jackie Chan was like, oh, this is fun. I'm gonna like do some badass kung fu. Am I allowed to? I'm not allowed to swear. Oh, I'm allowed to, my parents were like, I heard your interview, too much swearing. But, Jackie Chan can do some like badass kung fu shit, but then he like grabs your balls and like gives you a wink and a smile. You know what I mean? So I feel like that to me is something that only Jackie Chan can do. And Chris Tucker, I mean, that mofo, like there's no one else like him. Like
he's a comedy genius.
I mean, he's a comedy genius. And I think it's so hard to be that loud and talk that much and not be annoying. But for him, he's just like, he's like a one of a kind. And then you put those two together, I mean, they just seem to have so much fun. So I would have to say Rush Hour. And,
well
and
played.
It really is true, So.
And when can we see this?
Thursday nights on CBS at 10 p.m., 9 p.m. Central.
Thank you so much for being here.